Right, good morning. Welcome to our Hsing I Chuan program for this Wednesday morning, first class back for the new year. Welcome to 2026. We have had a look at the majority of the choreography of the set, the movements of the set from beginning to end. We were looking at some details on the turnarounds and opening and closing kind of work. We haven't done a closing movement for this set. We'll get to that. But today we're going to roll back into some of the foundations again, like we have been doing, looking at different ways to use our combined element and animal fists that are shown in the returning fist sets. But today we're going to focus a little bit on an element that we haven't looked at that much since we started, and that's metal. And metal is considered to be the sort of one of the sort of very much foundation movements for the Hsing I system, and it occurs right at the beginning of the set. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So let's get our feet in the ground. Let's let the head rise and fall. And we're going to inhale to rise and exhale to settle. And looking from side to side. And ear to one shoulder and hang. And to the other. Again to the first side. And the second. We'll do a couple of half circles in the front. Yeah, let's warm up the shoulders, roll them back one way. And then the other. Good. Into the arms, up, out to the sides and down. And then the other way. And then we can reach and lean to one side. And over to the other. Again to the first side. And the second. Let's let those arms go loose. Gently wrap around the body a bit. Good. Okay, let's warm up the hips. The hips roll one way. And let the hips roll the other. One more time, the first way. And the second. From the inside to the outside with the legs. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. From the outside to the inside. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Up to the shoulder. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then up to the chest. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Good. Shake it out. Feet together. Knees one way. And the other. Again, first way. And the second. And then stretch down. Hang down towards the ground. And we're going to roll to come back up. Okay, let's get ourselves started out here today. So let's jump in. New year, let's work a little bit on some I Chuan that will help with our metal fist. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. This is a good drill for working on metal. We're going to push out with the back arm as we roll forward in our weight. And then we're going to settle, and we're going to push out with the lead arm as we come back. So we're going to go forward and back. Think of your elbows being heavy. This is a real part of the Hsing I system, is this sort of heavy forearm and elbow structure. Let's put the other leg forward. We'll keep that going. Good. Back to the first side, a few more repetitions. And to the second side. Good. Okay. Working on our wood fist connective action from the, or trajectory from the Hsing I. So this is the one where we're wiping down one side and pressing down the other. So we're rolling back and forth again, but this time we've got these kind of parallel ovals. We can change the foot. Quick review of a couple of the other I Chuan chains that we were working on. We had the one that we were working on for our uppercuts from the bear eagle. So we had that dip and pop, dip and pop. Let's do that with the other leg forward. Just a quick warm up. Getting that sense of being in the ground and driving, in the ground and driving. Release, produce. Get a chance. We're not fighting at the moment. We're working on learning how to relax and create those structures rather than holding tension between the postures. Good. Okay, let's take a tour through a few of the element fists, and then we're going to focus a bit on metal. So let's start out with a bit of the wood fist. We've been working on two different foot patterns for this. So our first foot pattern was the step, catch up, push, catch up. Couple more seconds to play. Push through the ground. Push, push, push. So we're really working on connecting that rear leg to a rear arm technique. Easier, but that hard one is getting that nice crossing load in the body. So we're pushing out of the back leg, but producing power in the front arm. So what was our second foot patterning for this? This was the catch up. So we were doing this near the end of the set and then thrust forward. Stomp in, push through. Stomp in, push through. So in a constant, one of the constant concepts of these and the I Chuan and things as well is that every time we use a limb, it should be that the other side of the body is ready to be used next. So if we're only moving from the arm, we're never loading much more in the body. We're just throwing an arm. When we start to work on these rotations and draws and settles, in thrusting with one arm, we're setting up the other arm and thrusting with that arm. So when we come into this one that we're doing with the stomp, and we're driving that rear arm and choking up, not only are we hitting here, but we want to think about that, the load in the other side. How are we winding this up so we can push back out again? Let's work on that just for a few more seconds. So we go boom and push, pound and drive, pound and drive, pound in, push out. So we want to get to the place where the weight's in our front leg, but as soon as that back leg chokes up, we don't rise. We just transfer that mass and drive back out. So we settle in, we transfer, we drive. Settle in, drive out. Settle in, drive out. Last few seconds. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Okay. Let's make sure that we don't run out of time to go through the set. So I'm going to fold out, so we're going to take ourselves through the sequence a couple of times, nice and slow, working on technical work. And then we're going to come back and finish up the class by really looking at the opening and working on some metal fist. So we've been starting this out by knowing that our line that we're going to be working our patterns on, we're standing on a 45 to that line. Our opening was the lift with the hands, brush up the back, pressing down the center channel. We're sinking into the right leg. We're staying in that right leg as we spiral through the waist to produce the right arm in a fist. We're spiraling and touching in with the left, and then we're driving to our sum toy. So we have a wood fist, so we drive forward. We're going to go right into earth here. So we're crossing over with that lead arm, and we're going to position that back foot by letting it open slightly. As we step back, we're going to cross. We're going to go to a hook stance, and we're going to drive that left arm forward. Now, like I was saying earlier, that means the right arm should be nicely set up to come forward into our wood fist again. Now we're crossing. This is where we started into our zigzags and getting off angles. So we're shifting back, crossing, opening, drawing in. We're going to cross the wrists. We're going to step back on the diagonal. So we're coming back to the line that we were originally on. And we're coming through. And this is where everything condensed. We talked about that pounding, everything tightening. Now we hold that as we step on the 45. We draw that through our mud tile. And then we explode into fire. Now we're going backwards on our zigzags again. We step out. As we're moving back, we're crossing over the body. As we settle, we're crossing through. We're stepping back, we're crossing over the body. We're crossing through. Now we stay there. So that left hand comes across and right hand. Here comes that uppercut workout. Remember, dip and pop. Then we're sliding this hand through, stomp and metal. Now we get 1, we're stomping in, and 2, we're driving out. Here comes our turnaround. So we're going to shift into the right leg, turn in with the left brush. As we settle, we're going to put the weight into the left leg so we can spiral, kick with the right, spiral, and dragon. So now we're going to do the same sequence. We're going to start from the dragon position as opposed to that some toy metal position. And we're going to go wood, roll back, earth, come forward, wood. Phoenix, stepping on the diagonal back 1, Phoenix stepping back on the diagonal 2 with pound the mortar. Contain that mortar position and then drive through for fire. Roll back earth 1 on the 45 back, 2 on the 45 back, and 3 while maintaining position. Roll, dip, uppercut, kick, gather, palm for dragon, and then step up, punch, step out, punch. Brush, turn in, settle, weight the left, spiral right arm, right leg, left arm comes out to dragon. Wood, earth, wood, phoenix backwards 1, phoenix backwards 2, pound the mortar, step, fire, earth 1, 2, and 3, uppercut, dragon, wood fist, step up, wood fist, step out, turn. So again, not long sequence. Hsing I doesn't often go into long sequences because they want lots of repetition on foundational work. Wood, earth, wood, phoenix 1 and 2, step through, fire, earth 1, 2, 3, uppercut, stomp and dragon, wood fist, turn, settle, come around, 1, now 2, earth, raise your hands, step back, brush. Now I've seen this as just brush and be done. I've also seen this as brush and close. Sometimes just formalities from systems. Okay, so hopefully that helps flake some of the rust off on the sequencing that we've been working on. And let's dive into some details again. So we've been talking about all the different methods in terms of how with our earth fist we were thinking about being able to hammer, to blow, to cover, to shift from leg to leg. We had these low shoveling kind of hits. We had this inside uppercut. So not the outside uppercut that we were working on with Bear Eagle. We're rolling and coming in. This one is spiraling up the inside. So we have that. We have checking with the forearm, things of that sort. We've been talking about those, the wood fist and stuff. But let's look at what we see at the beginning of the set, as well as with metal fist. One of the hard things with metal fist is getting this set up where we have hand on elbow forearm area. And this takes a lot of hollowing of the chest and condensing of the body. If I stay big with my body, it's kind of hard and I end up just kind of bringing my arm across, not setting this up. I want to think about how am I getting this arm to tuck that elbow, to chamber that elbow in so that I can throw. So here, and if you look at old school drawings and stuff from the early days of bare knuckle fighting and early boxing, one of the early kind of positionings was this kind of Duke's up position where the palms were in and the hands were up in the front. And this is changed over the years, like a lot of things evolve. But this is also because one of the safer ways to hit with the fists is kind of up against the jaw, not swinging wild against the cranium. So we had this kind of covering of the body and driving in a way that kind of helped save the wrists and the knuckles just a little bit. So what we want to have is we want to have this condensing, and then we want to think about pulling and pushing. So quite often this is referred to as rending. the idea of two directions at the same time creating power, a pull and a push. The best description I had for this was a teacher who said, think about it like you've got a bunch of sheets of paper and you're trying to tear those sheets. You need to pull and push. Pulling doesn't work, pushing doesn't work. One staying still is okay, but if we get two actions at the same time. So how do we get those two actions at the same time in the body? By thinking about the axle of the spine rotating. If I rotate through the axle of my spine, my shoulders and rib cage should advance and retreat equally on both sides. So this is different than me moving one arm and keeping my trunk still and moving the other arm and keeping my trunk still. There's not much development of the next piece of the puzzle, the next power production moment, if I'm just moving through my shoulders and elbows. It also changes my reach. If my body stays flat, my reach is not nearly as much as if I start to rotate through my trunk. So we want to get that sense that we create reach, not by leaning, not by necessarily having to step in, but distance is everything in terms of a striking art. Whoever controls distance controls that interaction. So if I can create more, I can take more distance, I can take more space without having to move my vitals closer to the person by rotating. If I stay square, very difficult to get that there. So at the beginning of our set, we have this place where we sort of brushed and we settled. And then there's this kind of awkward moment where we go 1. And here, this is trying to teach us how to anchor the hip. So I'm not, because the next thing we have to watch for is, are we just using the arms? And then the next thing we have to watch for is, are we twisting in our ankles and in our hips to create that motion instead of creating load and connection to be able to thrust from the ground. So as we settle here, we want the foot slightly turned. So as we settle, we want to be able to settle in the hip and we want to be able to leave the hip where it is. This is hard. So my hip is on a 45 and I'm going to try to turn my waist so that that back arm is reaching forward while not giving up that thrusting potential in the back leg by not letting the ankle roll, things of that sort. It's hard to bring it across on the monitor, but we'll do our best. So I'm here and I want to be able to go turn, turn. So my hip stays 45. My weight is really in a single leg and I'm trying to turn my waist so I can kind of shovel up with this fist. If this was in tight, this would be me in tight, and I stay in this leg and I go wham, up, uppercuts. Again, into solar plexus is one of the places these often go, particularly when you're not trying to break your knuckles on somebody's skull. So into the solar plexus. But I'm not transferring my weight yet. This is an exercise in isolation where I'm going to go turn the waist. Now remember what I said, the other hand should be setting up. If I'm reaching in with my right shoulder, my left shoulder should be drawing back. Again, I'm still not really weighted in that leg. 1, 2, and here's my rend. I'm going to pull and push. If I stayed here, I could just keep firing close center line uppercuts that typically go in between the person's guard, and we're driving up inside that space. 1 and 2. Now to rend, I'm going to think about pulling down, so that lead arm might be grabbing and tugging, and my rending again is not just my two arms pumping, it's my torso moving. So I've taken all this time at the beginning to load, so that I can then, once this is all loaded and drawn in, I'm going to get power from my right leg to drive my left elbow and forearm and hand out. And that's when I step. So I get this driving into my stepping position. driving through. In, condense, condense, condense. Get that pelvis to be settled. It's the framework. The leg and the pelvis and the foot and the ground are the framework to be able to create these spring rotations. So if you think about it like a torsion spring, like a flat bar, and you're twisting it and it wants to return, think of that torsion spring being in your body. You're connecting one end of the spring and you're loading from the opposite end, and we get all this springy potential. So the technique isn't about trying to make the motion. A lot of the time we're looking to think about building up potential, and this is a release to that position. Now, the sum toy position that we get at the beginning of the set is probably one of the better postures in terms of civilian self-defense and things of that sort, where what we're learning how to do is we're learning how to base on a 45 or to step into a base on the 45. So we can do this either stepping back and away or stepping in. Getting that 45 between the feet means I'm creating width into my base and depth into my base. It means that I'm loading the back leg and the back toe is turned out slightly. That means I am profiling my groin and my solar plexus offline and getting my shoulder and my arm in place and my other hand here. Now, people talk about, oh, you got to stay in the box, stay in the box. That's great for boxing. We're in the ring, we've established rules, we're in there, and we know legs aren't going to be a part of the situation maybe, and we kind of know a bit about what the interaction is. What I'm trying to do is put up a physical and visual barrier to the other person. I want to protect my ribs. I want to roll back into my back leg. I want to protect the rest of my body. So it's stylized a little here down by the groin and here, but this is kind of my position. I've got that lead arm that could be throwing uppercuts. In the set, we go right from this position and we're going to bury a shot in the solar plexus. It's like stay back, and boom, we've got that wood fist kind of loading up from the original sum toy. Now, I don't want to be reaching out because look at the space that leaves in my rib cage. I want to be settled with the elbow. I want to be settled on the other side. I want to be loaded back here. I'm about 60% back weight, so I can be back. This is not super threatening. It's not like putting your hands up. Putting your hands up is definitely a escalation. Whereas sum toy, although it gives a lot of potential, it's not as escalating. It's a little bit more subduing in terms of self-defense, up, hand up, telling somebody, you know, it's okay. Let's not cross this barrier. This gives me my indication of critical distance. If somebody can get in close enough to that hand, A, they're close enough I can hit, and B, they're probably close enough they can hit. So we're settling. So right at the beginning of the set, we're coiling. We're learning a couple of short inside uppercuts. We have a shove. So sometimes all we need to do is create some space, push somebody back. But we don't want to do this where we open up this space too much, so we keep that elbow low. All right, there's lots more we can talk about on that one. I just wanted to dump some details into our beginning part of the set and to that building of coil. But we got to let it go for today. So shoulders can go back and shoulders can go forward and arms can circle back and arms can circle forward. Reach and lean one way and the other, and let the arms go nice and loose and wrap around the body a bit. Okay. Thanks so much for training today. If you've got questions, let's take them now, or you can text or email me if you're catching this off of the archive. Thanks for coming out and training today. We'll talk to you all very soon.